Okay, we are live.
Good.
Participants in, attendees, Fadil, Francois, Tinus, the regulars are in. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the 3rd of September. It is my wife's birthday today. If I can just throw that in there.
You got to do a happy birthday live, eh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We can sing for her just now, but she doesn't watch this show at all, so she wouldn't know at all. So, but this is Thursday once again, and the weeks are going very, very fast. I mean, it's only, I calculated the other day, so I think there's 18 weeks until the end of the year, 4 months. It's crazy. Anyway, but we have another exciting webinar. We have got an amazing panelist today, and we can't wait to introduce her and can't wait to dig into her expertise and how it might help you guys. Welcome, Tanya Ferreira. Welcome, Jet. And I think for the sake of time, we know we are limited to time today. We are going to jump into the intro straight away.
Yes, absolutely. So, as Lenny says, it's super exciting to be here again. I've lost a little bit of count, but we're over 30 webinars, and it's such a lovely time that we can just spend with everybody. Just before Lenny introduces the green room, who we are, it's Trevor Thomas and Lenny de Villiers, and we have a company called Induka Group, and Induka Group is there to help you if it is your heart's desire and your dream to go and live your dream in America. We can assist you to get there on the back of what we call an EB3, it's an employment-based visa. Alternatively, we've got an E2 for the European guys that would like to look at something like that, where you could do an investment visa. And it is our passion to help you and your family to get to United States of America, and not just get there, but successfully immigrate. And on the back of that, that's why we established this green room. And Lenny, maybe if you want to take a second to just chat around the green room.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. So, guys, we are, like I said, excited to have today's panelist on, which is exciting for me because eventually in the beginning, when we started the green room, we didn't really know where it was going to go. And at one stage, I thought we were going to run out of topics. We're going to run out of things to talk about. And that's not the reason why we scaled it down from just once a week instead of two days a week. But guys, the green room is an exciting space for people that are looking to immigrate, not just from our program that Trevor mentioned now, the Live Your Dream program, but anywhere in the world. You know, so we touch on topics from relocation, psychology of immigration, immigrating with pets, financial immigration, and obviously we do dig into our program as well to give you more information. It will be silly not to do that. So we do that as well. And then, you know, we even got topics like today. We've got a topic that is so relevant to everybody. If you are immigrating to Panama, if you're immigrating to countries like Australia, I feel sorry for you, but I mean, that's immigration. But people still need to go there. They still need people that side. But we think that this will be a very, very useful webinar for you. Just to get to your yes. I mean, I think for me, when I started listening to her Sundae's bio and stuff like that, I'm going, this is exactly what we normally do for people. We ask them around, how did you get to your yes? And that's very, very important for us as in our program. But without any further ado, Sundae Bean, can you please give us a little bit of information about you, a bit of background of, you know, how you started your business, how you, a bit of your awards and stuff. I mean, I went through your bio. There's so many awards and so many number ones that you are on top of. I'm going to give you some space to brag a bit.
Oh, that's so sweet of you. You're making me blush. Well, I come from pretty humble beginnings. I was born and raised in Williston, North Dakota, rural community. Had no idea about living abroad. I didn't even know probably what the word abroad was when growing up. And my sense of adventure called me to live outside of the United States. I ended up studying abroad in Switzerland. I traveled around Western Europe, Eastern Europe, and Southeast Asia. Ended up meeting a Swiss guy and marrying him 20 years ago. And I realized that following that hunger of cultural adventure also led me to challenges I wasn't prepared for, right? So that brought me to study intercultural communication, learn how to help people transition through intercultural transitions, because the real experience unsupported is very raw and it doesn't have to be hard, all hard, right? And there's ways that you can make the hard parts smoother and the good parts even better. And I think about what you do, you put all this work into emigrating, but once you get there, if you're not happy, you're asking yourself, well, for what? Why did I do that? Did I make a huge mistake? And one of my goals is to help people live abroad without regret. So people follow me on my podcast, Expat Happy Hour. It has been #1 on places and travel in multiple countries. And I do have a Facebook group called Expats on Purpose, where I help people who are already living abroad with their everyday challenges.
Fantastic. Sundae, I think what was something that really resonated with me, and I was sharing it with Lenny just before you came on, it was a quote by Mike Tyson that you also used, where it says that everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face. and I really, really loved that. I thought it was, it's so true. And getting into the space that you're in, I mean, you've been coaching people now, expats, for the last 10 years. You must have seen so many different circumstances, so many different scenarios. And as you well mentioned, it's not sort of a cookie cutter solution. For each person, there's different scenarios. And maybe talk us through that approach in terms of your business and how you look at helping people through that.
Well, I think the thing is people need to understand there are best practices, there are proven strategies, and I'm very happy to share those. I have them packaged and ready for you. And whenever you are faced with a dilemma, you need to live with the consequences of that decision. You need to be able to sleep at night knowing that you are carrying the circumstances as a result of that decision. So those decisions need to be made in alignment of not what you think you should do or what you could do, but what you really want. And it should be based on your needs and your values. And the trouble with asking someone else what you should do or could do is they might have different needs and they might have different values. And that's why working with someone one-to-one is really important, because it helps you. I mean, can you name your values like that? Like if I forced you to say, what are your core values or what are your family values? You might have to work hard to do that. Right? But when you are faced with a dilemma or a question like, should I stay or should I go? You need to make a really solid decision, and it's got to be something you carry. So that's where I encourage my clients to get really clear on what their needs are and what their values are.
Yeah. So, I mean, and where it gets complicated is obviously when there's a husband and a wife that needs to make both those decisions together. And obviously that's what we also ask our clients right in the beginning when we have that interview with them, because obviously they're going to be fulfilling an employment position in America, is that we want to know that the process takes 12 to 18 months. And that in that process, there's a lot of emotional roller coaster moments that you're going to go through. Push and the pull moments that you originally had as maybe your core values and your wants and stuff like that, is just to get to that main reason why you go. So I always tell our clients that we need to assess that your yes moment that you've come to that conclusion should be strong enough to carry you through those emotional moments. So in that 12 to 18 months, when the guys are going to doubt that he's doing the right thing, is that he needs to be firm on his reasons, that as soon as he gets to that yes, I mean, I don't know if this is something that you agree with. Obviously, I don't want us to give this type of information to our people. In the meantime, it's just not true, So we need to unpack that a little bit more, maybe.
I mean, I think that the tricky part is there has to be a yes that they share, and it's okay if they have different reasons for the yes, but there's got to be a shared yes. And I know that, for example, I lived in Switzerland I recreated myself professionally. I was coaching in German, had a wonderful job. And my husband said, hey, I'd like to live and work abroad. And I said, I am living and working abroad. And we ended up moving to West Africa, to Burkina Faso. I left literally one of the safest, most successful economic countries on the planet to the third poorest country on the planet, where there's malaria risk and personal, insecurity, with 2 kids. Why did I do that? Right? What was my yes? And the entire time, what I loved about what my husband said, he's like, Sundae, we need to both be in this 100%. It can't be, because what happens is if the partner isn't on board 100%, and if your partner doesn't have their own yes, and that means not to make their partner happy or just their kids happy, if they don't have their own yes, it will lead to resentment. And 70% of early repatriation, meaning you go back earlier than you planned, is for family dissatisfaction. And so you can prevent some of that by helping both parties get really clear on what they're looking forward to and why they're going. So I would say for sure on the yes, and make sure that it's unique to the individual, but one that's also shared.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, very good points. Sundae, you actually met your husband in Vietnam, is that correct? You guys
Yeah.
were both so you were coming from a place and space in your life where you were, oh, my apologies. Give me a second.
Dogs are impossible to muzzle. I mean,
we talked about that just before this webinar, didn't we? Sundae, so yes, I was talking about the fact that, you were already in this lifestyle of experiencing international travel, living abroad. Mm-hmm. We have many families in South Africa that are now making a move, some of which have never even traveled, have never even been overseas, and for certain reasons now they're in this space of going, we need to look at this as a solution to the family scenarios. Maybe it's possibly they can't get work here, or whatever those motives are. I mean, different people from different spaces and places. But what would your guidance be to these people, Sundae, from a perspective of going, once again, should we go or shouldn't we stay? And I think that your podcast is phenomenal. We're going to share that link with everybody, so we can't unpack all of that in one space. But can you maybe just talk about what would that first thing be? What would your advice be to that family that is on that thing of, do we go, do we stay? What would you share, in a short sort of snippet? Guys, this is what my advice would be to you.
Okay. So I think there's a couple, what I would advise against is a pro and con list. Because we're already smart enough to make pros and cons. We've already thought about them. And think about it. If you were to make a pro and con list about having kids, we would not regenerate as a species, because there are so many negative things, right? But then we're all like, duh, having kids is amazing, right? If you have that ability and you have that wish. It doesn't always make sense to do a pro and con list, because it's also emotional. It's also based on something much bigger than logic. We are humans. We are psychological, right? We're not just machines with on and off switches. So I would say you already did the pro and con list. That's still not solving your problem. I would look at, again, what should you stay or should you go? You can ask yourself, well, what would make this a great decision? Like, what would have to happen for us to say this was the best thing we ever did for our family? And then explore, what does that look like? Well, if we move abroad, then we should travel. We should see more. Our kids should learn English, whatever the thing is. So create that shared dream together. What would have to happen for this to be amazing? And I have to do that in my everyday life when we're deciding countries. I didn't even set foot in Burkina Faso before I moved there. I didn't set foot in South Africa before I moved here. So you can say, what would have to happen for this to be a great thing for our family? That would be one way to generate ideas. Another one is, how can we do this without regret? How can we do this without regret? And the answer might be we can't, because someone in your family, your closest sister, has a terminal illness, and there's no way in excuse me, Hal, you would leave the country now, you need to be by your sister's side, right? Then the answer is no. But if the answer is like, hey, wait a minute, maybe if we built in once a year, I'll come back, or we'll fly my best friend out, whatever the thing is, then you can come to more open solutions.
Yeah.
So it's actually counterintuitive. People want to narrow, but I would actually blow it up.
Okay.
Right. And it helps you think about what would happen if it turned out really well, and what could be the worst thing that would happen. Right. And then normally the worst case scenario isn't even likely. So those are some ideas.
Yeah. Great.
Excellent. Very, very good. So talking about the pros and the cons, I mean, I would want to maybe propose it differently. So the pros being the pull factors, and the cons being the push factors.
Yes.
So let's talk in a very real pull factors that cause people to leave. For instance, family, education opportunities, partners' career opportunities, political, whatever the case may be. Are there any factors that should be weighed heavier, more important in your decision-making the process?
I mean, for me, the things that come up is basic, like Maslow's, pyramid of needs. Are your needs for security and safety being met financially or physically? Are you able to continue to provide shelter? Like, are you under threat if you stay or if you go? Right? Those are some things like basic needs. I would really think about that. And that is a real thing in South Africa, right? Like when you think about the economic situation, the instability in South Africa, and if there's stability being offered in another place, it could be a real push to get out, right? Depending on what your job situation is. And I know that from coming from North Dakota, I know there are a lot of South Africans in my birth home, because the oil industry is booming and the farming community is left looking for more work. So there's a real need and there's more security there. And so, for example, if I'm a family and I'm feeling insecurity financially in, let's say, South Africa, and I know our needs for security are going to be met as best as we can predict in another location, that is a really important need to pay attention to. Right. And I'm a firm believer that all of the ups and downs that come with living abroad and far away from your family, there are strategies. I mean, that's what my entire life's work has been about. How do I create connection with loved ones, even though they're far away? How do I look for purpose and meaning, even if my thing got taken away from me? Those things are figure outable. I can't help you figure out like your core, you know what I mean? Like, but I can't help you find your bank account or not lose your house if you're not going to, get paid that next month. Those are really deep things that have so many other push and pull factors. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a real struggle to get to those, the push and the pulls and stuff. And I always, make the comment to people, and it's just from my perspective, is that I feel that the pull factors should be, from my side, the pull factors should be weightier than the push factors. But obviously, the push factors has got an impact on the pull factors for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just trust that families, if you're going with a family, you're going to make I'm thinking of it in German, it's vernünftig. You're going to make a reasonable decision, right? You're not going to do something reckless where you put your family at risk, right? That doesn't mean you're not going to be afraid.
Yeah.
Doing that, there's a difference. And then what do we do with those fears?
You got to be honest
with what you would do next. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Excellent. Sundae, so let's run a scenario with you. Let's say, because in the world that we live in at the moment, we've had COVID that has hit. We have had, obviously you watch a lot of what happens in America due to it being a hometown, but you've had Donald Trump that has closed the borders. You've had certain of these impacts. Okay. So you made the decision, you went through the list per se, looked at what your values were, and you made the decision that we're now going to go and we're going to immigrate. And then you have this impact that has happened, call it COVID, call it whatever it is, and suddenly that changes. How would you, as a life coach, you know, say to someone, okay, now you need to or after that decision was made, there is a delay, you know, do you park it? Do you now change the decision of what, you know, go or stay? I mean, Shara, what would your thoughts be to that?
Well, I feel like, I mean, if you still, once this clears up, I mean, is this 6 months? Is it 18 months? Is it 20 months? If those factors haven't dramatically changed, I would look at, well, how can you make the most of the time from now until you go? If you're still feeling called that this is the right thing, then now how do we make the most of it? And what's great is now you have time to build relationships with people in the new environment. One of my strategies that I talk about is how do you build relationships before you go, which will help you land easier and create community faster. You've got time to build those relationships. You've got time to do all of the things that you want to do mindfully, to say goodbye and to honor the transition that you're making from one space to the next. And then I think you can just get really creative. Like, how do we make the most of this unique liminal time and then go? And I work with expats all the time where they know they're going, they just don't know when. And I just watched a family go from Europe to India. Like literally they got the call, okay, we're leaving in 4 days. I've seen this happen multiple times now in COVID. And I think you can just prepare the family. We are leaving. And this is why we're leaving. And this is a really good reason why we're leaving. Here's what we need to do before we go, all the goodbyes and that natural transition. Here's what we want to do to make sure we land well. And then prepare your family. Once we get the marching orders, so to speak, we're going to activate this plan. Boom, boom, boom. And then you're ready. So you don't have to always live in that uncertainty. You can just be present, be in your life, live now here, and know when the go is said, then you've got your plan ready that you'll activate. And then you'll be on that airplane saying, hey, I left having done everything I wanted to do.
Yeah,
I think that's great advice. I mean, you also spoke on some of the things where now we've had COVID, for example, but previously families have had difficulties where there's been a traumatic experience where someone suddenly got critically ill, or there was an accident and someone, for example, couldn't, so I think that although we're using COVID as an example at the moment, these are really, really real factors that I'm sure you've dealt with many times through your years of experience.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've lived through it personally. I've had people suddenly pass away. I've had cancer situations in my family. We've had deaths. I mean, we've all had to ask ourselves, should I stay or should I go? Whether it's quickly to, spend the money and go for a quick weekend to be there for a service, or if it's reverse your plans completely, right? And I think what's really important in that moment, especially if it's something dramatic, like if you get a diagnosis or a loved one announces something unexpected, I think we have to keep in mind, we still have the amygdala, right? Our fear center of our brain literally hijacks our ability to make good decisions. We go into fight, flight, or freeze. If you do get something shocking, give yourself some space to process that and feel all of the feels, right? And then after you've had time to come through that and you can be present, then you can start looking, does it make sense for us to shift gears? Does this still work? I've had this with my clients where they were in East Africa. They had a family member that got sick on the West Coast of the US, very close family member. It had huge career implications for this professional who worked her whole life to get to where she was. And the question was, what do we do? And here's what I would offer as another idea. Instead of, should I stay or should I go? Think of, how can I do both? Right? How can I be present for my loved one and keep my career going? That we get so stuck in like right or wrong, on or off, left or right, that we forget, what if there's a solution where we can get both of those things at the same time? And maybe you can't, right? Maybe you can't, but look, maybe there is a way. And what happened in this case is she was able to work from the West Coast for 6 months and be present with her sister while she was working, and her sister actually recovered and she was able to keep her career going and be by her side. So that was a great situation of looking for both instead of either or.
Wow. So, I mean, that's a great nugget just to explain to people, is to stay in the present. Because what I find maybe sometimes with some of our applicants is that because they are so excited about going, is that that's the only thing that's on their mind. Mm-hmm. So they never really look at the present things and the things that are right in front of them that they can deal with, that are still relevant and they're still beautiful in front of them. There's still life in front of them and it's still present. I mean, I know you're running out of time, Sundae, so maybe one last question from my side is just so we can get maybe a little bit of a perspective of how you did it. So obviously you've traveled quite a bit and with children, and I think it falls in line with what Fadil's asking a question about immigrating with kids. How you planned your transition and in moving. So you guys would have decided, whatever your factors would have been, to move to, say, for instance, to South Africa. Your preparation mentally, your preparation with the children, and how you guys did it, and how you guys prepared yourself to come.
I think that what's important as a parent, once you know why you're doing it, it's rooted in your values and it's meeting your needs. And that if you are in a couplehood, right, that you are aligned in that, and you've got, each of you has a why, right? And it's truly there, not just, okay, I'll do it and to satisfy everybody else. That's the first thing. Your children will feel that. That creates a security in your family. And I think one of my areas is to help people transition, right? And kids go along in these transitions. So how do you help your child transition? One, having that security within the family. This is why we're going, being clear on what it's bringing, and then helping your child understand that they are capable of creating relationships wherever they go, that they're not going to lose contact with the loved ones that are closest to them, because you've got strategies to keep those connections, right? You can help them transition before you go by watching videos on YouTube and seeing what it looks like and reducing their uncertainty. Once you get there, you can introduce them to age mates before they actually go to the first day of school. So they feel like, hey, there's a person who knows me. Even if they never become friends, it gives them a little security before they go. And then really be present with them. And I think the thing is really important with transitions is to honor their feelings, because this might be the time of your life and you're loving it, and they might hate it. So it's really important not to ignore or discount their emotions, to really be present and say, gosh, I'm really noticing that you're struggling. I'm sorry. This is hard. I get that. And we want to make it okay for our kids, right? But being really present with the kids is important. So you're creating that transition, that bridge for them, helping them look forward to it, and then being that solid base for them once you're there, saying it's okay if it's hard. Right? I get it. And you could also share, hey, I've had hard times too. When I was in middle school and, none of my friends liked me, I felt like crap. I didn't want to go to school either. Just being there with your kids, trusting that when they're being seen by you, that it'll feel safer for them, and giving them the time to, exercise their emotions. Those are some things to do. But there's a lot of things that you can do to support your kids. I've got lots of things in the works on that, but don't worry, your kids will be fine.
Excellent. Good. Well done. Thank you.
Yeah, Sundae, I think this has been so refreshing. I must say, I think that a lot of people will take a lot from this today. And ironically, some of the positions that we have people applying for is based in North Dakota, as you well mentioned. And yeah, we're speaking to Sundae Bean, that is sitting in Pretoria in South Africa.
That's right.
So it's really been great time to have with you. Sorry, Len, I interrupted you there. What you're saying?
And I just said, I think we would definitely like to have her on again. I think there's a couple of more questions that are coming through, and I know we are stuck on time. Also, we'd like to find out more about North Dakota, and some of our applicants would love to maybe ask her questions around that.
It's good. I have just one last thing to offer everybody who's listening. You'll spend so much time thinking about preparing to get there and all the excitement. Actually, the real work starts once you get there. And that most of the time, the companies will not invest in you and your well-being once you're there, but that's when the work starts. Usually the first 6 months is the honeymoon phase, but after a year, year and a half, 2 years, 4 years, 10 years, that ongoing adaptation process is real, and there's nothing wrong with you if you're struggling. Acknowledge it's part of the process, and that is where you want to invest with your family. You didn't make a bad decision. There's just new hurdles to address, right? And I don't think people talk about that enough.
Yeah, they don't recognize it. Good, thank you.
Yeah, Sundae, thank you so much for your time. I think that, like Lenny said, we would love to have you on the show again, and we could then maybe unpack that which you just mentioned. I think that that's very important. But we know that you've also got another call and you need to jump onto that. So we really appreciate your time. Thank you from Lenny and myself and from the Green Room, and everyone listening. Thank you for your time today.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Take care. Don't hesitate to reach out to me on my website at sundaybean.com.
Awesome.
Bye.
We'll also post that for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Cheers.
Bye.